The story begins with young Courage, who's playing with his real mom and dad. While playing, he ends up getting stuck in a gate. After that, his mom and dad take him to a vet. The vet frees him from the gate, but then locks him in a room and kidnaps his mom and dad. The plan of that old scientist was to send Earth's animals to some planet in space and turn them into super animals. He was just stuffing Courage's mom and dad into a rocket when little Courage arrives to save them. Courage was just a little puppy, so he couldn't do much, and to save his own life, he jumps into a tunnel. On the other side of the tunnel, he falls into a trash can, from where he can see the same rocket, the one with his mom and dad, taking off. Maybe little Courage realized that he would never see his parents again. Now the little puppy was left completely alone. He stayed there, hungry, thirsty, and alone. A few days later, he meets Muriel, who feels sorry for Courage and adopts him. Living all alone in such a deserted and dangerous place was really a brave thing for such a little puppy. That's why Muriel named him Courage. Courage the Cowardly Dog has 4 seasons and 52 episodes, running from November 12th, 1999 to November 22nd, 2002. So get ready to relive your childhood memories. Sit back comfortably and grab some popcorn. Before knowing the entire life story of Courage, let's learn about some important characters of this show. Courage, who is only Courage by name, is actually a very timid kind of dog, but he can go to any lengths to fight the troubles that come upon his owners. He takes care of his owners, Muriel and Eustace. Talking about Muriel, she's a very calm-natured old lady. She takes care of the house, cooks food, and supports Courage. Eustace is a grumpy, irritated old farmer who's always trying to scare Courage or belittle him, calling him stupid, dumb dog. Besides this, there is a 4th member of the house, the computer. And this is no ordinary computer. This is the world's first AI computer. This computer has its own personality, and whenever Courage gets into trouble, this computer gives him advice and helps him get out of it. Now let's come to some of the iconic villains of this show. First comes Katz, who's a cat and also Courage's arch enemy. He comes in different forms each time to finish off Courage. After that comes LeQuack, the duck. This is a clever duck who is actually a thief. His only job is to steal valuable things, and yes, so far, even the police of 12 countries couldn't catch him. Then comes one of the creepiest characters, Fred. Just look at this guy's mug and his smile. I mean, even today, seeing that smile would make even the bravest person uncomfortable. And we used to watch this show in our childhood. This guy had a very bad addiction. He was addicted to cutting hair. Whenever he saw Courage, he would always have the urge to shave him completely bald. Now finally, let's come to its story. Courage, Muriel, and Eustace stay in a hotel in the middle of a violent storm, the Katz Motel. There at the reception, they meet Katz, who tells them that dogs are not allowed here, so tie him outside. Eustace, who never liked Courage, takes full advantage of this opportunity and goes to tie Courage to a pole outside. However, Muriel comforts him and gives him a blanket, saying it's only for one night. After tying Courage outside, the two get ready to sleep, but as night falls, Katz places a box in front of Courage, out of which comes a terrifying spider, which starts attacking Courage, and there's another spider in Muriel's bathwater. Courage somehow defeats the spider and goes to help Muriel, and Muriel sends him to wake Eustace. The old man is sleeping very deeply, and Courage fails to wake him up, but when Courage comes back a second time, Eustace is no longer there. So Courage goes to the reception for help, but no one is there either. And Courage opens the staff room door and sees Eustace wrapped in a spider's web. But just as the spider is about to attack Eustace, our brave Courage smashes it with a piece of wood. Now Katz arrives there, but Courage throws Eustace right at him. Katz finally catches Courage and tells him that if he wants to get out of there, he'll have to play a game with him. Meanwhile, Muriel defeats her own spider and goes out in search for Courage. Courage was about to give up, but just then Muriel hits Katz on the back of the head with a tennis racket and takes Eustace, still wrapped in the spider's web, and leaves from there. In the next episode, we meet one of the show's most infamous villains, LeQuack, the duck. As I told you before, he's a thief. The episode starts with Eustace trying to repair the roof. Just then, a piece of wood breaks and hits Muriel on the head. She loses all her memory. Eustace takes full advantage of this opportunity, and the first thing he does is kick Courage out of the house. Then he tells Muriel that her only job is to obey all his orders and cook for him. Muriel, having lost her memory, thinks, yes, maybe this is really my job. Courage, who wants to come back inside the house and help Muriel, calls a doctor. But instead of a real doctor, LeQuack arrives with the intention of stealing. The moment he arrives at the house, he first knocks Eustace out with a big hammer. Then he starts questioning Muriel about where all the valuables are. But Muriel had lost her memory, so she knew nothing. Courage sees all this, so he sneaks through a window to the computer and calls the police. Meanwhile, the duck hits Muriel on the head with a hammer, causing her memory to come back. She was tied up, so she couldn't do anything right away. Courage tries to stop him, but LeQuack catches him and is just about to hit him with the same hammer. Just then, the police arrive on time and arrest LeQuack and take him away. When the police search the house, they find Eustace locked up in a cupboard. This time, Eustace lost his memory. He thinks serves you right, so Courage just leaves him locked in there. At the end of the episode, LeQuack escaped from the police car and shouts this isn't their last meeting. In the next episode, we're introduced to Muriel's creepy nephew, Fred. Just seeing Fred for the first time makes Courage tremble with fear. He's completely terrified. I mean, who wouldn't be scared seeing that face? When Courage and Fred are sitting there together, Courage notices a band tied around Fred's wrist, the number on it and words, "Home of the Free Barbers," written there. That meant this guy had just come out of a mental hospital. Courage tries to tell Muriel about this, but Muriel doesn't understand anything and tells him to show Fred the bathroom. Suddenly, Muriel remembers she forgot to give Fred a towel, so she tells Eustace to give it to him. But Eustace is a lazy old man, so he makes Courage do the job instead and pushes him into the bathroom, locking the door behind him. Now in the bathroom, there was only this poor, timid dog and a crazy man. What could happen? Fred grabs Courage by the neck and starts shaving him bald. The shine on the head is a wonder to behold, he says, your face so radiant. Courage tries to look again at the mirror at Fred's wrist, but Fred immediately hides it and keeps Courage from screaming. He stuffs a pancake in his mouth. In the end, after completely shaving Courage bald, Fred's very happy and starts dancing, taking advantage of the moment. Courage dials the number on Fred's band. The hair police come immediately and take Fred away. Fred goes away happily, because he had fulfilled his mission of shaving Courage bald. Now, the next episode was iconic and memorable for an entire generation. In this episode, Courage finds a strange stone while digging a hole. He brings the stone home. At first, Eustace thinks this dog has brought back some useless rock, but as soon as he learns from the news that the same stone is missing and worth millions, he goes crazy with joy and sticks to it. After that, the true owner of the stone comes and tells Eustace, "Return the slap or suffer my curse." But this greedy old man refuses to return it, and so the curse begins. First curse floods their entire house with water. Somehow Courage manages to get the water out of the house, and after that Muriel tells Eustace to return the stone. But even then Eustace refuses, and the second curse falls upon them, making them hear such loud noises that their eardrums almost burst. Courage destroys the source of that noise as well, but still, Eustace doesn't agree to return the stone, so the third and final curse comes, sending swarms of insects to attack them. At first, Eustace thinks that the insects are gone and nothing more will happen, but the insects come back again, and this time they carry Eustace away along with the stone. Finally, after the curse is lifted, Muriel and Courage sit back peacefully in their house. Then in the end, we can hear Eustace say his final words. This episode starts with a cunning plan by LeQuack. He plans to hypnotize the family. He comes to their door and says that he's here to fix the TV. Muriel tells him that their TV isn't broken, so then LeQuack climbs onto the roof and deliberately breaks their antenna. Now he waits for them to call him again, and that's exactly what happens. LeQuack returns and pretends to fix the TV, and does something inside of it. And the TV hypnotizes Eustace and gives him the order to get rid of Courage. After that, LeQuack hypnotizes Muriel and orders them both to steal all the money from the local jackpot. And that's what they do. They sit in a car and drive toward the lottery stand. In the meantime, Muriel distracts the guard by dressing up as a clown, and Eustace sneaks inside and starts stealing the money. They had no idea that Courage had quietly followed them to stop the theft. Though scared, Courage cleverly starts dropping all the lottery money along the road, so people can see it and know where the money's going. After that, the police follow the trail of the money, and once again arrest LeQuack. But like always, LeQuack escapes the police again, and shouts loudly that it's not easy to get rid of him, and he'll come back. The next episode starts again with Katz, who this time uses his jam monster to kidnap Muriel. His motive for kidnapping Muriel was to get her famous candied apple recipe. Bad luck, he always gets second place in the annual sweet contest. Katz threatens that if she doesn't give him the recipe, he'll kill her, but Muriel refuses to give him the recipe. Meanwhile, Eustace comes back home and notices Muriel is missing. He sees jam bits left behind by the jam monster, and while following them, he starts heading toward Katz's hideout. On the other side, Courage is tied up with bubblegum ropes, but Courage chews through those ropes and blows a huge bubble, using it to fly straight onto Katz, which saves Muriel, but he and Katz both fall down the stairs. As always, Katz challenges Courage to another game. This time the game was a staring contest. Courage focuses completely on staring, but then Eustace arrives, scaring off the jam monster. The old man did something good for the first time in his life, but Eustace's voice also scares Courage, and he loses the staring contest. As punishment for losing, Katz throws Courage into a candy-making machine, turning him completely into candy. Meanwhile, Eustace, who usually doesn't do much, actually fights Katz to save Muriel. However, Katz is overpowering Eustace. Then our hero, Courage, rolling along as a candy ball, comes back and throws Katz into a machine. In this way, Courage saves both Eustace and Muriel, and Katz gets turned into a piece of toffee. Muriel then reveals to Courage that the secret ingredient of her recipe is vinegar. The episode ends with the Nowhere Sweet Stuff contest, where once again Muriel comes in first place, and Katz comes in second. The next episode starts with a company called Growth Industries, which is after people who have a special ABXWZ blood group, because their hair-growing medicine works best on them. As usual, Muriel becomes the target this time. The company doctor is asked whether there are any people with the AB blood group, because their test subjects were running out. At first, the doctor refuses, but after getting a small bribe, he tells them about Muriel. The people from Growth Industries arrive straight at the farmhouse and kidnap Muriel, taking her away with them. Courage finds this all very suspicious, so he immediately calls the doctor, where he learns it was the doctor that gave away Muriel's details. Courage goes to the clinic and looks through Muriel's file, where he discovers why Muriel was kidnapped. Muriel was in serious trouble. He shows this file to Eustace, thinking maybe Eustace will help him, but here comes a huge plot twist. When Courage reaches Growth Industries, he finds out that its owner is none other than Eustace's own mother. When Courage asks her about Muriel, she tells him she doesn't know anything. But Courage doesn't sit quietly. He sneaks into the building and finds Muriel, who is hanging from the ceiling and being put through many frightening scientific tests. Courage immediately triggers the fire alarm, causing all the guards to flee. Escaping from Eustace's mother, Courage jumps out the window with Muriel. In the end, Courage and Muriel come back home, and Eustace also returns with a head full of hair and a lot of money. Because for Eustace, the most important thing is money, and for Courage, it's Muriel. In the episodes after this, Eustace's mother once again tries to break apart Muriel and Eustace's relationship and humiliate Muriel. So basically, this is the start of a Hispanic-style mother-in-law and daughter-in-law story. The entire day, strange, creepy, dangerous, and harmful things keep happening to Eustace. And every time something bad happens, Muriel is there, making Eustace think that Muriel is doing it on purpose to hurt him. His mother arrives at the house immediately. She claims she has a counseling license, which of course she doesn't actually have. The mother gives Eustace some counseling, and even before beginning the conversation, she tells him there's no hope of saving his marriage. Courage doesn't like this argument, and the mother's nonsense at all. So with the help of the computer, he forges a counseling license himself. And the counseling conducted by Courage, everything goes smoothly, and Eustace and Muriel make peace with each other. Just then a ghostly woman appears who tells Courage that she was the one causing all the trouble because she believed Muriel's ancestors had drowned her husband in the lake. Eustace's mother doesn't believe this and continues her plan to destroy Muriel's and Eustace's relationship. The mother goes to Muriel's room and accuses her falsely, and the ghostly woman helps her do this. Courage sees all of this, and to stop the mother, he uses a certain item to distract her. When the mother sees this item, she goes into a trance and starts confessing all her life secrets, including one very important truth. It was actually her own ancestors who threw the ghost woman's husband into the lake. Hearing this, the ghostly woman realizes that it was Eustace's mother's ancestors who did it, not Muriel's. So the ghost chases Eustace's mother out of the house. Later episodes, we get a good chance to meet the family's computer. The episode starts with Courage writing a little diary entry, which gets saved on the computer. Reading Courage's memories, the computer tells him, "You're not brave at all. If I got the chance, I could do much better than you." That night, a terrifying storm arrives, sending huge amounts of electricity through the house's electronics. So much electricity that the computer comes to life and starts growing its own body to walk around. Now the computer was no longer just a machine. It began to think of itself as a powerful human being. It downloads itself into the sleeping Eustace's body and takes control of him. But Eustace is a weak old man, so the computer says it needs a body with more muscle, and its eyes land on Muriel. The computer controls Muriel's body like a super suit and goes around the world doing tasks, thinking of it as acts of heroism. Courage does everything he can to save Muriel and stop the computer's madness. The computer thinks each of its acts is a heroic feat. It ends up getting trapped inside a machine and asks Courage for help. Courage does help, but ends up getting an electric shock himself. After that, the computer picks up Courage, brings him back home, and returns to its computer room. It says, "Being human is actually quite boring." Muriel, who was completely unconscious during all this, wakes up, and Courage tries to tell her everything that happened. But Muriel thinks it's all just Courage's imagination. Throughout the series, we saw one thing. No villain ever attacked Courage directly, but always targeted Muriel Muriel and Eustace. But in the next episode, a villain directly targets Courage. Courage licking his bone outside of the house when a woman comes up to him, goes crazy upon seeing him and says, "You look exactly like my dog Duncan." When Muriel sees them, she thinks Courage has made a new friend and invites the woman inside the house. But once inside, they realize the woman is no ordinary person. She's a storm goddess searching for her lost dog Duncan. She clings to Courage, believing he's Duncan. Slowly, Muriel too starts to realize that this woman is crossing the line. At dinner, the woman clearly says that Courage is her dog and she'll take him back. Muriel, for whom Courage is like her child, gets angry on hearing this and says Courage is her dog. Hearing this, the storm goddess becomes furious and summons a storm. With the help of that storm, Courage is blown away in search of Duncan. Soon, someone tells him that Duncan was last seen in the sewer. Courage goes into the sewer and there learns about the God Bone. But remember, he must not lick it, because if anyone licks this holy bone, they will always keep licking it. Courage hears licking sounds and turns to see Duncan licking the very bone. Courage also feels tempted to lick the bone, but thinking about what the storm goddess might be doing to Muriel, he stops himself. Out of fear, Courage finds his bravery again and leaves the bone, taking Duncan with him. When Courage returns home with Duncan, a new problem appears. The storm goddess sees that Duncan loves his bone more than her, so she decides she'll keep Courage with her instead. But Courage uses his cleverness. He pretends that he also loves the storm goddess just as much and agrees with everything she says. Seeing this, Duncan gets jealous that his mistress is giving a new dog more attention, so he lets go of the bone. In the end, the storm goddess, Duncan, Muriel, and Courage all reunite together. After that, Courage's arch enemy Lquak returns once again, and this time he has come with a very dangerous plan. This time he wants to use Muriel to rob a Swedish bank. The episode starts as always with Courage and Muriel in the kitchen, making something. That moment, Eustace comes in and says he can't find his glasses. Muriel tells Courage to go outside and find Eustace's glasses. I mean, the old man is good for nothing. Lquak arrives, and Courage tries to warn his owners that something's fishy, and they don't take him seriously. Lquak quietly slips some rare Swedish vinegar into Muriel's recipe book. Muriel then becomes worried, wondering how she even has this rare vinegar. At that moment, Lquak pretends to be a worker from a vinegar company and says he'll take her to Sweden to get it. The innocent Muriel believes him and agrees. Lquak ties Muriel with a bungee rope underneath his hot air balloon, but Muriel is uneasy about the whole thing. And that's when Quack reveals his true plan, to rob a giant Swedish bank. He takes Muriel near the bank's safe and tells her that the vinegar is under the green leaves. But Muriel had no idea those were not green leaves, but actually the country's currency, and she starts filling the hot air balloon with all the banknotes one by one. Then Lquak pushes Muriel away from there. However, our brave Courage catapults himself to rescue Muriel, and they fall together in a shop that happened to be selling Swedish vinegar. They bring it home, and Lquak gets arrested by the police. In this episode, not only does Eustace fall sick, but even the computer becomes ill. The episode starts with Muriel trying to make something tasty for Eustace so he'll feel better, but Eustace doesn't like any food because it has vinegar in it. So Muriel and Courage go online to look for a new recipe. They find a recipe, but it takes a long time to download. So Muriel goes downstairs for a bit, and when she returns to the room, she sees the computer pulling her inside itself because a virus had infected it. Courage also goes inside the computer to rescue Muriel. Inside, they find the virus, which was actually sick. They feed the virus a special gelatin they made for Eustace. Eustace didn't like it, but the virus does, because it had vinegar in it. And the virus likes vinegar, so it gets cured. At the end of the episode, they come back out of the computer. Afterwards, they make a soup for Eustace, which also has vinegar in it. Muriel and Courage were so tired of Eustace that they booked a vacation for themselves. They go to a place ran by cats, which was kind of like a submarine. But just as they were about to enter, Cats, as usual, says dogs are not allowed here. But Courage disguises himself as a doll and sneaks in. Inside the submarine, Muriel is put in charge of making tea, but soon she feels like something's wrong, and Courage confirms that there is definitely something suspicious. So Muriel goes to question Cats, but Cats locks her in a cell. However, Courage steals the key from Cats and saves Muriel. But during all this chaos, the submarine's balance gets messed up. Its controls fail, and it starts sinking deep into the water. Cats tries to escape but gets eaten by a shark, and Courage saves everyone. He inflates himself like a balloon, fills himself with gas, and makes bubble burps, helping everyone resurface before the submarine explodes. The next episode starts with a lot of announcements, one of which is that hunting season has started, and whoever catches the biggest deer will get a cash prize. Hearing this, Eustace remembers his older brother. Whenever he talked about hunting, his older brother would always say he was useless, which is actually true, and always called him worthless. Coming out of those sad childhood memories, Eustace now wants to prove himself, so he enters the hunting competition, and not with a normal gun, but a laser gun. However, he misses all his shots, and more than half of them hit Courage instead. As soon as the father of the deer sees that Eustace is shooting at his family, he picks up a gun himself and comes to hunt Eustace in revenge. Courage organizes a less dangerous game show to save Eustace, but Eustace still loses. He tries again to shoot the deer but misses, and his shot ends up in a bear's lollipop. job. Eustace tries to be clever and puts his hat on the deer's head, and the deer's antlers on his own head so that the bear will think the deer shot him. As Eustace runs around wearing the deer antlers, the real hunters mistake him for a deer and catch him. After this comes one of only two 20-minute episodes of Courage the Cowardly Dog. The episode starts with a mysterious masked person coming to Courage's farm. As soon as he arrives, he starts beating up Courage, saying he hates dogs. As usual, Muriel saves Courage and invites the stranger for tea. During tea, the masked man introduces himself as Kitty and tells the story of his friend Bunny, who fell in love with a gangster dog named Mad Dog. That dog was very aggressive and threatened Bunny that if she tried to run or showed herself around Kitty, he would kill her. During the story, Eustace tells Kitty he should take off his mask. This angers Kitty, who throws all the plates off the table. At dinner, when the mask is mentioned again, Kitty stays quiet and says he's afraid to face the truth. Muriel then says everyone has to face the truth at some point. At night, Courage keeps an eye on Kitty and sees that Kitty is actually a cat. Wow, what a revelation. I mean, couldn't tell by the name? Courage becomes sure that Kitty's mask is a monster that controls him and starts giving him nightmares. Courage tries to warn Muriel and Eustace, but as usual, they don't understand him, so Courage locks them in their own room. Courage considers Kitty's toy mouse as evidence and plans to take it to the police. After that, when Courage is having dinner at a restaurant, someone working there tells him where Mad Dog is keeping Bunny. Meanwhile, at home, everyone's trying to get out. Kitty climbs out of a window and believes that Courage has stolen Bunny's toy. From Mad Dog's hideout, Courage somehow rescues Bunny while being attacked by several dogs. While escaping, Mad Dog tries to run them over with his car, but Courage jumps on the car and steers it toward the train tracks, where Mad Dog is maybe crushed. Kitty calls to Bunny from a distance. Bunny then tells Kitty that Courage is the one who saved her life. Then Kitty says maybe all dogs aren't so bad after all. Now finally comes the episode in which we see Courage's past, a little summary of which I had given you in the intro. The episode starts with Courage watching an ad about a missing dog. Just then he starts getting flashbacks. In his first flashback, he remembers how he got separated from his mom and dad. He sees himself playing ball with them, and while playing, his head starts getting stuck in a gate. After that, his parents take him to a vet, who frees Courage from the gate but kidnaps his parents. The flashback ends and Muriel gets worried about Courage, because Courage isn't saying anything, just sitting quietly. When Eustace also tries to scare Courage and Courage shows no reaction, they think something is wrong with him. So they take him back to that same vet. Courage once again starts getting flashbacks there, and in the flashbacks he sees many alien-type animals locked up at the vet's place. The same vet was forcibly taking Courage's parents to a different room. As soon as Courage sees the vet again, he gets another flashback. Young Courage sees his parents being locked up in a rocket, and he tries to save them, but the door had already shut. The vet was preparing to put Courage in that same rocket as well. Just then, Muriel and Eustace arrive to save Courage. That moment, the vet reveals that he is sending dogs to space to make them bigger and stronger. Hearing this, Courage remembers the day when he had to run around helplessly and couldn't save his parents. In the present, the doctor tries to put Muriel and Eustace in the rocket too, but this time Courage jumps out of the rocket in time, and this time Courage was not giving up. He screams loudly into the doctor's stethoscope, and as soon as the doctor covers his ears, Courage steals the keys and opens the rocket doors, freeing Muriel and Eustace because he didn't want to lose his loved ones a second time. And then Courage locks the doctor himself in the rocket and launches it into space. After that, the vet lands on the same planet where he had already sent so many dogs, and among those dogs were Courage's parents too, who were all ready to give that doctor a proper beating. Then Courage has one final flashback about how Muriel adopted him, and in the present, Courage is sitting happily and safely in Muriel's lap. That was the entire story, Courage the Cowardly Dog. But because you watched all the way to the end, on your way out, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribed. Thank you, and see you in another one soon.